Is Texas Chainsaw Massacre better than Dead by Daylight? Can TCM finally dethrone DBD as the best asymmetrical horror game? In this video I want to compare the two games when it comes to things like gameplay, longevity / replayability, and the community. Now I know it's kind of dumb to compare these two games as they're both very different and not trying to be like the other, which I think is actually a great thing for all of us. Both games are their own game. TCM isn't trying to copy or compete with Dead by Daylight or vice versa. What I mainly want to talk about is if TCM can be as successful as DBD, and just to clarify, TCM, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, DBD, Dead by Daylight. As I'm sure most of you guys know, DBD is one of, if not the most successful asymmetrical horror game of all time. There's been many attempts to try to cut into the action and take some of the audience from this genre, but none have been very successful, at least not as successful as DBD is. Now let me be clear, I'm not saying it is the best horror game or even the best asymmetrical horror game, but it is by far the most successful asymmetrical horror game. So let's start trying to decide if TCM can perhaps take the spot from DBD. First, let's go over gameplay. Both games have the same goal for the victims, or if you want to call them survivors, and also the killers. Survivors must escape, and for the killers, well, they have to kill everyone before they can escape. But this brings us to our first major difference between the two games, which is the 3v4 scenario instead of the typical one killer versus however many survivors. This game will have 3 of the family members trying to hunt down 4 of the victims in their house, with Grandpa playing a very important role trying to help out the family. This difference in ratio, I believe, will allow TCM to have a less competitive and more chill experience, which is a huge deterrent from Dead by Daylight these days as it's been known to get a little too competitive and toxic. I don't think you can completely remove both of those negative factors from a game, as some people will continue to be both of those things, but I believe overall gameplay should feel less stressful for both sides. Like when you're playing Killer in Dead by Daylight, the pressure is all on you, and that just discourages people from even picking Killer as they'd rather play with a team. Where you can just relax at times while your teammates are getting chased by the killer or saving each other, you can just be sitting on a generator. With this 3v4 split, it will be a little less stressful on both sides. Well, maybe this does add a little bit of more stress for the survivors since you'll now have to be getting away from more people, but also in favor of the survivors, it does seem a little more difficult for one family member to take you down. This game encourages for more than one family member to be focused on one victim at a time, because in a 1v1 situation, it's pretty easy to get out of the grasp of a family member. It's better that more than one family member focuses on a victim to take them down together, which in turn allows for more opportunities to escape before being taken down. Don't get it twisted though, you can still get chopped off very fast if you're not careful or if you just get caught off guard. It's just a little easier to get away from a singular family member. Also, thanks to the way the new characters in the maps were developed, sometimes you'll be faster, slower, maybe you'll fit in small cracks and the killer won't, causing the killer have to go around. You can sometimes literally be in a spot where you can just go back and forth, stay away from the killer, and they'll need to get one of their other teammates to cover one side while they get the other. I want to compare the objectives when it comes to gameplay. Gameplay objectives seem a lot less repetitive in TCM. It's not the same fix 5 generators, open the door, leave. There's so many different puzzles and different ways to play each time you get into a game that it won't be as repetitive as DBD. On the counter, this could be a little confusing for players as there's a little more to think about. But overall, trying to escape shouldn't really get repetitive, which is always good for a game's replayability factor. Now I want to talk about the replayability and longevity factor for TCM. This is crucial for the game as if it wants to take over as the best asymmetrical horror game, it has to be around for a while. As for DBD, it has been around for 7 years and it's still going strong. A huge factor for that is the game's extra content. Dead by Daylight is notorious for adding such iconic horror movie and video game characters, and for TCM, it will likely be Texas Chainsaw Massacre only stuff, which I believe is a huge hindrance for the game. One of the best parts about DBD is being able to play as iconic characters such as Michael Myers, Ghostface, a Demogorgon, and even Leatherface himself actually. While I believe the characters for TCM will be great, and I especially like the way everything is mixing together, I don't think it's enough to bring people back to the game once it's fallen off. Like, I had kind of fallen off of DBD for a while, and then they announced Alien and I've just been super hyped about that and wanted to play the game again. I also need to note that TCM only has the rights for the 74 TCM film, so until they get the rights for the other films, they can't recreate any of those maps or bring in any of those characters. So Sheriff Hoyt will have to wait. Everything will have to be brand new to the series, which this was kind of a similar issue to Friday the 13th going through their lawsuits where they couldn't release new content. But as far as I know, TCM can at least release new content, it just won't be something we're familiar to. They'll likely create their own new maps and characters just for the game. Something TCM does have that will help with the replayability is a really good progression system. There will be many different ways to level up your character and also adjust your character to your playstyle. You can have up to 3 perks and an ability based around your character and adjustable attributes. So in most cases, my Connie won't be your Connie or my Leatherface won't be your Leatherface. I have a full video going over how the progression system works. If you want to check that out, it's in the top right or on the end screen of this video. Which if you're not already, make sure to subscribe for future content like this and TCM tips and tricks. Another positive Texas Chainsaw Massacre has is its cross-playability. If you have friends on Xbox and PC and you're on PS5, you can all play together. Now unfortunately, it doesn't have compatibility with old gen or cross progression, but the ability to play with more friends is cool and it'll help this game stay active. Now I want to talk about the overall communities for both games, as I know DBD is known as being too competitive or too toxic. But in my opinion, it completely depends on you and your mindset. The only reason you'd find it too competitive is if you're upset that you're losing or killers aren't going easy on you. And yes, it's annoying to lose in any game, but you shouldn't take it so serious, especially in a game like this. Games like this aren't even meant to be competitive. So if you feel like you're just being super outskilled or you feel like you're outskilling someone, like it's not that serious. When I lose as a killer or a survivor, I don't go on Reddit and cry or report my teammates and talk trash in chat. I kind of just laugh it off and move on. Of course, it can definitely get under your skin, but you just have to learn to not take it so serious. I've been playing games like this for so long that I've learned to just ignore it. These games are meant to be fun, and it's just a game where you're supposed to be scared being chased or having fun doing the chasing. If someone is genuinely being toxic, I'd like to remind you there's mute and block buttons you can use. Of course, it does take some composure to not get mad and give in to the toxicity, but just know you can always avoid it if you really wanted to. I promise you, no matter what game it is, you can always find people trying to be a tryhard or just being super toxic. Another thing I want to talk about is how people may want to bash on this game and say one side is balanced or not. I just want to say for the longest, DBD players have been doing the same thing and going back and forth over which side has the advantage and which doesn't, and I just don't care. Because no matter what, people are always going to complain. People like to be Karens, and Karen will Karen. So try not to give in to the complaints and try to keep really both games open-minded. Of course, if there's a genuine issue in either game and something is broken or has a major balance issue, it is fair to complain. But usually it's something super petty and somebody just got really mad one game and decided to complain about it. There will always be the next thing that needs to be fixed and people will just still complain. So here's my honest take. You can enjoy both games equally depending on how you play them. I'm pretty good about not caring about my stats or rank in these games, so I promise you I get to truly enjoy both games better than someone who does. If you go in wanting to be the best TCM player, wanting to escape every time or kill everybody every time, this will make it so that anytime you lose, you're probably going to look for any excuse as to why it's the game fault you're losing, and you're going to start complaining about the game on Reddit like I was talking about earlier. But I truly believe that the game's gameplay and progression system is really good and has a chance to be as successful as DBD. Of course, the issue is what will bring players back once they kind of fall off the game. I think this game being only Texas Chainsaw Massacre hurts it, as they can't add much extra content like DBD. Not only is DBD's content very frequent, but it's also our favorite characters being added, not just different made up characters. Something else that you guys should know is that Texas Chainsaw Massacre will not have skill-based matchmaking at first like DBD does, which I think is a good thing, but I mean that could cause for you to be with some tryhards or vice versa and you're playing with complete noobs. Once again, I'm not saying that one game is better than the other, I just wanted to make a case as to why TCM can be as successful as DBD, which I'm sure we all hope it can be. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you're interested in running some custom lobbies where it'll be a tryhard free zone, make sure to join the Discord down below and keep notifications on for when I go live on YouTube. Till next time, love you, see ya.